Thursday, May 20th, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, it's a tech news roundup.
Lazy Bones. Let's do this.
Actually, it's also because Anime Boston is this weekend.
Yeah, you're not going to hear another Geeknights until probably next week.
Emily and I might do a Geeknights on Shinsekai Yori because we both watched it and it was good and we're done with it and we can do a final thoughts. I don't think Scott's going to watch it, at least in the next 6 months.
No, I mean, you know, we made this deal where I would do the one hard panel and you would do all the easy panels.
Yeah, well, the
thing is... It turns out all the easy panels combined were easier than the one hard panel.
So I point out, I'm just going to point this out because I'm kind of a fucker, but when I brought this up, I was very clear. I said, so we got 5 panels and one of them's way harder than the other 4. So one of us should do all 4 of the other ones and then one of us should do the 5th one. And I didn't lie, but I kind of hinted that maybe I wanted to do the short one, hoping that you would take it, and then I'd be stuck with the 4 that took me like 2 days to do.
You know, the thing is, the only reason I took the hard one, you know, was because
you have a vision.
I had a vision, and I didn't want you to have your vision.
Scott, I have the same vision. I have the vision of a clip of that frog, like seeing him, and like in the background, all sinister a couple of times, and then the parallel clip of that flower from the same angles on the fucking island.
I got those clips.
Yeah, Anime Boston is gonna be awesome.
Okay.
So
I have these great clips where it's like, Island. Welcome to Meepros Island. What's up with this island?
I am the second strongest man on Meepros Island.
He actually never says you get the third strongest.
No, you don't get the second.
You don't get the second or the first.
Yeah, well, you know who the second and first are.
Yeah.
It's Joyrock.
Right, but who's the...
You know where Joyrock's name came from?
No.
That's some anime trivia I'll bring up at the panel that I'm scared.
You're proud that you know?
I am proud that I know this because I learned it from Luke in an era when you couldn't look this shit up.
How do you know that that's true if you learned it from Luke?
Because recently, as in like yesterday, I looked it up to make sure it wasn't just bullshit.
Okay.
While I was finishing the 4 other panels.
Also, by the way, that movie is still pretty funny.
You know what? Slayers still pretty good.
I'm telling you, there's some good. It was not unpleasant to rewatch that shit.
So how about that strip search? Before we get into the main bit of this tech news roundup.
Shouldn't we talk about that on Wednesday?
I guess it's interesting that, you know, Emily and I, a while ago, we were talking about how, wow, Scott's really into strip search. Like, I like it, okay, and it's a good show, and we're all kind of into it.
I like it because it's honest, right? It shows you, like, you know, these people that are people just like us, our kind of people. Right?
So Scott,
it's a show made with our kind of people, for our kind of people, by our kind of people.
So Scott, by that logic, the kind of person who's on the Jersey Shore is the kind of person who would enjoy the Jersey Shore. It's made for that person by a richer version of that person.
But that is a horrible person.
We
are good people.
I make no value judgments.
I make those judgments.
But
Judge Scott,
the discussion...
Gavel.
I feel like if we did a super crab people on a Thursday, we could do Judge Rim and Scott. It'd be a pale simulacrum.
Judge John Hodgman is far superior.
I was about to say,
listen to him.
We would be but a pale simulacrum, a poor homunculus.
What I really want is Judge John Hodgman to find some, you know, dispute between me and Rim and then rule in my favor because I'm right.
I'm pretty sure he'd rule in my favor regardless of what the dispute
gavel
was.
Of justice would cut through your bullshit.
I think the dispute we would have him go over is which one of us is right about his ruling.
Anyway,
but what Emily and I were discussing, and I've discussed this with a few other people too, was that it appeared because you always expressed a particular disdain for reality shows of any sort.
Mm-hmm.
And when you got into strip search and got way into it, it had a momentum similar to your entrance to My Little Pony, so we posited merely that this was going to serve as a gateway drug, a marijuana that would then lead you into the harder stuff. And what are you watching currently?
I'm only watching. Okay, so I can explain this as well.
So
right?
I know you found me on top of a pile of cocaine, but just hear me out.
Hear me out. It's not a bug. So I'm not watching anything else stupid.
Before you know it, it's going to be Honey Boo Boo.
I don't even know what that is.
Yes, you do.
Barely. I saw it on South Park. That's about it. That's all I know is what I saw in South Park. All right, so Kitchen Nightmares is not stupid. As stupid as the... All right, so here's the thing. There was that clip that went around Reddit. I didn't even know the show existed, right? And all I knew about Gordon Ramsay was that he was the angry chef guy. And I saw him make scrambled eggs once on YouTube, right?
Those are really good scrambled eggs.
Right, so I made those scrambled eggs, and the taste of those scrambled eggs made me think, maybe that angry guy is not so bad with his angriness, because goddamn, if his one YouTube video can make me cook fancy restaurant quality eggs, he fucking knows something, that guy, right? So then I saw him, in this video from a show I didn't know existed, where he went to some restaurant, and he was supposed to help the people running the restaurant, but they were the shittiest people on earth. Perhaps they watched Jersey Shore.
It's interesting that the internet fallout of that I only knew about this because Daryl Surratt retweeted a picture of the comments related to this.
Mm-hmm. So then I was like, all right, what the fuck is this show normally like? Right? So I went and I saw it was on Netflix randomly. I wasn't even like going out of my way to find it, but I turned on Netflix and I was looking for something to watch and I saw his face there and he had a knife and it was like Kitchen Nightmares. I'm like, oh, let me see what the show's actually normally like. And
I wasn't really looking for porn. I just turned on the computer
and there was porn
next
there,
thing
right?
I know, there's porn.
So I gotta tell you, the US version of the show is actually not that great. It's sort of like half good and half bad, right? Half the episode, you're learning about how to run restaurants. You're learning about what makes food good or bad, how to buy, how to save money, and the amount you spent, the restaurant costs to build a dish on the menu versus how much they sell it for. And it's actually pretty interesting running a restaurant shit. Right?
It's interesting. How many episodes did you watch? Because the fact that you said build as opposed to make is telling as to how much of the lexicon is seeping into your pores.
My dad works in food service. It's
I always forget that.
Anyway.
Can he get us tickets to a game of something?
What game do you want to go to?
Hockey.
No.
I know.
You think if we had hockey tickets, we would already be? Anyway, so... but the US one is full of contrived reality show nonsense. Each episode he'll do some promotional gimmick to get people to come to the restaurant, and once he had it was in Miami and he did a fashion show outside the restaurant, and it's oh please, right? Or he'll always arrive at the restaurant in some ridiculous vehicle, of some kind, and he's always he yells at people a lot more, and they portray it as him being way angrier and shit, and the people being way dumber and complete fuck ups. The worst offender of the whole thing was, one time they were trying to show how dirty and nasty this kitchen was.
Yeah.
And while they were during a meal service, a bowl of rice got knocked over, right? But if you look at that, why was that camera aiming at that bowl of rice on top of that counter that was just sitting there? And it zoomed way in on that bowl of rice, and you see a hand come in and knock it over onto the floor, but you don't see whose hand that was. And it doesn't look like anyone who works there was. So clearly the staff of the show knocked over a rice and filmed it. And it's really? Really, guys?
Well, maybe it's Unsolved Mysteries, where that was a reenactment of the thing that happened.
Also, at the end of every episode, it says, things may have been filmed out of order. So clearly they changed the order of the events.
See, what I don't understand is why
story.
Do they even need that disclaimer?
I agree. Anyway,
who thinks that a reality show is real?
There's another disclaimer that says how all the people who are eating in the restaurant during that time are basically getting free food paid for by the TV show, which is why, when you're in a restaurant, people send food back occasionally, but even in a bad restaurant, it doesn't happen that often, right?
I've sent maybe 2 things back in my entire life.
When you watch this show, it's everything is coming back constantly, and I think it's clearly because they tell the people in the restaurant, we're buying you food. If it's no good, send it back, please. It's for the drama, right? But I went and I found the UK version, the original, because I didn't even realize there was a UK version because I didn't even Wikipedia.
So that locally grown stuff really wasn't doing it for you, so you started importing direct.
Okay, so what was I saying? Right. The UK version, right? During one of the US episodes, he's like, this is my 100th, whatever. And I'm like, it's only season 2. How was this your 100th? Right? And I was like, oh, there were 5 seasons in the UK. So I went, and that happened to actually be on Netflix as well. Even though after I torrented it, I found out it was on Netflix.
Yeah. I love how even when we pay for Netflix, the instinct is to go straight to the Pirate Bay.
Exactly. That won't be on Netflix. Oh, the UK one actually is there. The UK one is actually a quiet documentary kind of thing where it's He quietly goes into the restaurant. And he's still like, you piece of shit, but it's more like it comes off as a totally different. He's not like a mean, angry, crazy person. He's just sort of like, oh, fuck off, you piece of shit. What the fuck is wrong? Right? It's sort of like even though he's saying sort of the same things, it's like he's a British person with British people, right? Sort of like, really? Come on, right? And it's sort of, I don't think it's filmed out of order. At least it seems to be, and there's no sensationalist nonsense. He just literally, and he narrates it himself sort of quietly. It's almost like a nature program, only the nature is people fucking up a restaurant.
Not bad.
It's like, oh, here, watch as the cheetah doesn't know how to cook for shit. Watch as this waiter can't even remember what is on the menu.
It's funny, not that you would have watched it, but there's actually an episode of Archer where they have a mission where they have to infiltrate a kitchen to protect some diplomat from being poisoned.
Watch as Archer can't aim that gun for shit.
And it's basically...
And he shoots himself in the foot.
It's basically Gordon Ramsay Kitchen Nightmares reality show, but it's just because none of them know how to cook and they're all pretending to be the chefs at this fancy restaurant. It's actually a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
You might enjoy it even if you don't like Archer in general.
Yeah, the other thing is in the U.S. one, it seems clearly there's some sort of thing going on where... he basically, what was I saying? I got a beep on my phone, so I got distracted.
I wonder what that beep was.
Yeah. The U.S. one, it seems like they have a deal with the restaurants. Like, they basically save the restaurants by infusing a ton of money into them, right? Everyone gets a renovation of their front of the house. Everyone gets, like, new stoves if their stoves are broken.
So they basically pay you, like, all right, here's the money to cover the fact that you're going to get the worst possible publicity.
Instead of paying them to be on the show, they basically invest money in the restaurant as payment for being on the show. And right? In the UK one, literally, it's just like him and a few cameras go to the restaurant and he works with them all week, helping them, right? And that's what you get help. Yeah.
So the moral is when Running Man comes to the US, bastardized, we shouldn't watch it.
Running Man is not a reality show, it's a variety show. It's different. It's not the same. It is, it's not even close.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Okay.
I'm laughing for other reasons. This was all foretold in the book of Strip Search.
I'm not smoking cocaine. It's just, it's still just weed, man. Just more weed, different kinds of weed.
So, since we're doing a tech news roundup and there's no real news, I do want to talk about something because I realized that most of you out there who want to be Linux administrators or IT guys or developers, a lot of Geeknights people, you guys who listen, have aspirations. A lot of you are in high school of going to college, or you're in college, you have aspirations of having the kind of job I have. I'm going to give you all some homework right now because I realized that nobody coming out of college fucking knows even the most basic network system administration stuff. This is the kind of thing that should be second nature. And also, it's a really useful tool. My homework for you is very simple. You are not a system administrator of any stripe unless you can get MRTG, which is a really simple little thing. You know those graphs? Like you look at a college, you're like, I wonder how fast their internet is. And there's always this like green and blue graph that's like hidden somewhere on the website, like the computer science department links to it.
Or like you log into your Linode and it's all these graphs of like CPU usage and it goes like this green blob, this wiggling up and down. It shows you how much your CPU's been used.
Yep. Now, MRTG is one of the primest tools in this SA or a network administrator's handbook because it basically lets you track arbitrary amounts of data without increasing amounts of storage necessary to keep that data, because as data gets old, it aggregates into basically sparser data points.
Right. So think about it. If you were going to say, track your CPU usage for the year, right? Well, you're going to have 365 times as much data as you do on the last day of the year as you did on the first day of the year.
So say you take your system load, per core. Every second, you take an average of that second. So you have a data point every second. Mm-hmm. And maybe for the entire current day, you keep all those seconds, because that's like 80-something. That's not that many data points. But then you take the average of, say, the hours or 20-minute intervals and use that to populate a week-long graph. Mm-hmm. Take the averages of entire days to make year-long graphs. And you can see that it's really easy to visualize trends in data usage over time. And there are many other tools that do this. And the reason I bring up MRTG is that it's so commonly used. It's the simplest one. And if you want to prove that you know how to administer systems, all you need to do to prove that to me is take MRTG and get it to monitor any Linux server's CPU and memory usage
Mm-hmm.
and have that graph appear. So if you will learn more about IT and system administration by making MRTG monitor your Linux server's CPU and memory, then you will by just about any other thing you could do in any class you could go to in college.
And if you happen to be interviewed by Rim for a job and you have MRTG on your resume and he asks you, oh, you wrote this on your resume, what is it? And you actually know what the fuck it is and can actually, convince him that you know what the hell it is, probably not going to need to ask you any more questions, and he'll believe that you just know everything else.
I will ask you one other question. If you think you're an administrator, I would ask you what a quadruple A record is in DNS.
I don't even know that.
Really?
I know what a 1A record is.
What's a 1A record?
It's just it's just you map up a name to an IP address.
All right, so a quadruple A record is just 4 A's.
I know that, but what is the difference between a 4 A's and a 1A?
IPv6. That's all.
I thought
That's all.
There you go. Now I know. How do you format the IPv6 address? Just the same way?
Yeah, same way.
And you just have normal DNS. It's not like
DNS maps.
It'd be like IPv6. It'd be like frontrowcrew.com. It'd be like .IPv6, and then it would be A, and then an IPv6 address.
Yeah, it's the same format as a regular
Now,
A record.
what if I use IPv6? Do I have to put the full fucking address, or can I use colon?
I'm pretty sure you can do colon, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure how Bind would handle it because I've never actually bothered to set up.
That's actually a set of addresses, not one, right?
Well, it depends on what kind of what you're doing. We're already getting deeper than I would ask on a resume.
So you'd hire me.
Yeah, you are a more competent server administrator than most people I have ever met, with whom I was asking questions in the hopes of hiring to be a system administrator.
I'll work for you for $500,000 a year.
Yeah, no.
No? Okay.
Give you a quarter of that.
Nah.
Half?
Nah.
Anyway. You got anything?
40 vacation days?
Thought you had a thing.
A thing? Oh, a thing of the day. I actually forgot.
No, I didn't say things of the day.
Oh.
All right, I guess now we can do things of the day.
Woo! I completely forgot about things of the day, but I actually have one prepared in my delicious.
I don't, so I'm going to find one while you pull it up.
So what this is a Flickr gallery, which I remembered that I had delicious because we were talking about Flickr.
Wow, Flickr gallery, that you delicious.
Yep.
Don't you mean a Yahoo gallery that you Yahooed?
Well, Delicious isn't owned by Yahoo anymore.
Oh, yeah, right. It's basically, well, let's see what happens with Delicious.
Yeah. But anyway, what this is somebody found a set of old Japanese Menko cards from the 50s, and they're totally amazing. It's like looking at old baseball cards of Japan with crazy, awesome characters on them. It's totally fucking sweet, this robot. Oh, shit. It's like if I could get these cards, maybe a big version of some of these to put on the wall, oh, man, that'd be so awesome. But I guess not. But in the meantime, you can look at them in this high-res Flickr photo. Oh, sweet.
So I got two really short, dumb things of the day.
Okay.
One is a mashup of that Titan anime that you guys don't need to know anything about.
That I haven't watched yet.
I haven't either.
Titan, Attack on Titan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
it's the popular anime right now.
AO10, and forget all. Anyway, so someone mashed it up effectively with Initial D.
Oh.
And this is
maybe I should watch it now. Oh.
Horrifyingly, deliciously hilarious.
Okay.
So I made this a thing of the day specifically on a non-Wednesday because I want normal people to watch this video and just wonder why, what this is.
Now, you said you had two things of the day.
So my real thing of the day, Tobias Funke, you may know from Arrested Development, which is a pretty funny show.
I hear he's making a comeback.
So in the lead up to the new season of Arrested Development, he has his sizzle reel. And what I have here is him auditioning to be on Bravest Warriors.
What? That is the craziest combination that I would never have predicted in a million years.
So
wait. So who was this? Something made by some fan? What? You need more details.
No. So this is on Cartoon Hangover.
Okay. So it's something the Bravest Warriors people got him.
Yes, but the manner in which it is done is great because he is.
What character is he trying to be?
Okay, so I'm gonna spoil the joke for you.
Sure.
He presents I'm gonna audition to be on Bravest Warriors, and then his reel is him superimposed into the show, not talking. So it's him in the background, playing catch.
Is there actually an episode of Bravest Warriors that's going on while this happens?
Yeah, but it's all episodes we've seen. He basically inserts himself into
About cabbage?
old episodes. Yeah, butter lettuce makes an appearance.
Butter lettuce.
Butter lettuce pie.
So apparently there's a Bravest Warriors comic. I'm waiting for trades.
Ooh,
Yep.
I'm kind of excited about that.
I got Adventure Time trade number 1.
Yeah?
It's Adventure Time.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of the Adventure Time comics. They're great.
Yeah. Okay. It's a lot like Simpsons comics.
Yeah, it's got that nice like blend of low-key humor and sort of the background jokes and all those things that I like about that kind of comic. So it's a tech news roundup, but first, meta moment.
Anime Boston, we're not going to talk about that on the show again until
Anime
next
Boston
year,
is
maybe.
this weekend. The only thing I have to say about it is if you weren't paying attention to non-anime normal news, but somehow you listen to Geeknights, one, there's a huge train collision that has basically fucked Amtrak as of Dateline now.
Hasn't it also sort of fucked Metro North New Haven line?
Yes. As of now, Amtrak is not unfucked. So if you're taking Amtrak
It's
to
not
Anime
still?
Boston, as of when I checked a little while ago,
Okay.
all I'm saying is double check that Amtrak will get you there if you planned to take Amtrak.
We're using Bolt Bus, right?
We're using Bolt Bus.
You got my ticket?
I got your ticket.
Okay.
2, they've instituted, the MCCA, against Anime Boston's wishes, a mandatory sort of city-run bag inspection at all entrances.
This
So,
might be the end.
all I'm saying is
Doom. I foresee doom.
I got a pretty awful response from them from my press inquiry that we're not going to really cover this unless it's disaster. But I'm just warning you, be ready for possible lines getting into the con.
Yep. And like plan at least on the Friday while you see how it is to go into the con and not come out until the end.
Problem is you can't even get into like the mall to eat.
I know. Anyway,
but if it does prove a problem, rest assured, I will make sure that those who are responsible for the problem are held fully accountable in the eyes of the internet, unforgetting and unfeeling.
yes. Other meta moments. The
Book Club
Book Club book is still the player of games. I've actually fucking finished it like weeks ago.
I'm going to start reading it on the bus to Anime Boston.
I'm reading the book that came before it.
Oh.
Don't worry, even though The Player of Games is the second book in a series, it is not like Prince of Nothing where it is a serial series. I guess right? It is simply books that take place in the same universe.
Well, you could argue.
And I had a full I did not, there is nothing in that first book that would have, really was necessary at all to understand that second book. So you can read Player of Games without reading Consider Phlebas and you will be A-okay.
Would you still consider a series serial if the episodes were aired out of order on purpose?
Like Haruhi?
Like Haruhi.
I don't know.
What
either. Order should you watch Haruhi in?
Watch it in the broadcast order, I guess. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I think the broadcast order is better than the chronological order just because it gives you that kind of Baccano feeling and it has a better pacing.
Okay.
But it doesn't really matter. It's interesting that you still don't know the primary conceit of that show.
I thought I did. It was the girl's looking for aliens, but she's the crazy one, but everyone else is the alien, but not her.
Yeah, that's not really what the show's about.
Okay. And it's time travel of some kind.
I mean, you think Initial D is about the cars? It's about whores. You think Utena is about people? It's about cars.
Did you see that picture from
Yeah.
Okay. From Sailor Moon S or whatever it is?
So, it's a tech news roundup.
Roundup. Weeds.
I want to start
kill
with some.
dead.
It is science and technology. We don't talk enough about science. The FDA is actually looking into, for real, regulating triclosan. And I don't think any of you know or care what that is. But basically, all that antibacterial soap that everyone uses that's so ineffective and doesn't do anything is a waste of money. Well, the FDA is starting to say that, hey, maybe this is ineffective and doesn't actually do anything and is a waste of money.
Well, the thing is, we're talking about the soaps you wash your hands with, right? Those Purells, I think some of them might have triclosan, but they also just have fucking rubbing alcohol in them.
Yes, but even those...
Nothing wrong with rubbing alcohol.
I've read so many studies saying that using consumer-grade hand sanitizers has basically zero effect on disease transmission.
I'm not saying they have an effect. What I'm
there
saying
are
is,
hand sanitizers that are effective.
Yeah,
I
bleach.
used to use them. You know what happens when you use them?
Your hands burn.
You don't have fingerprints anymore. My fingerprint reader on my laptop stopped working when I worked at the hospital because I no longer had a fingerprint.
Right. But yeah, I don't ever use the Purell shit, right? But I don't like specifically seek out antibacterial soap with triclosan. I just wash my hands
But
with
the
whatever
FDA is
soap is there.
investigating a lot of data saying that not only is triclosan encouraging bacteria to
We've
be
known
resistant
that. Even
to
I've
it,
known that for
but
years.
it also might have hormonal effects on humans and may be considered toxic.
I did not know that until today.
So here's an article on it. The FDA is going to release some rulings on it in the near future. And
Can we short sell on some soap companies, or is that basically already had an effect? And it's too
I don't
late?
know. I didn't look into that. I don't invest in those kinds of sectors because I'm not up enough on the inside baseball.
You don't know about soap?
I don't know about
Procter
soap.
and Gamble makes a fuck ton of soap, right?
I know that soap's a really slow way to send messages to a system.
All right, you know what I learned? Here's a related thing that I know. All right, so I was taking CPR training,
No.
and one of the questions we had
I was
to
wondering if you're going to be like XMLRPC.
no, and one of the
So,
questions we had to
yeah.
answer is that when you're washing your hands, what is the most important thing in determining how clean your hands are actually going to get? A, the temperature of the water.
Nope.
B, the soap.
Nope.
C, the friction.
Well, it depends. Is D the amount of time spent?
Well, it's yeah, pretty much.
Because the protocols, like when I was in the hospital and I would go into the neonatal care ward to do whatever work, I would wash my hands up to the elbow for a full 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Right. See, it's all about, right, the soap only matters barely.
And washing meant rubbing my hands against each other like this constantly.
Yes.
To the point that they got hot and hurt.
The friction is what matters. How long
That could be said about many human endeavors.
covering all the possible skin areas.
That could also be
for
said about many
extended
human
periods,
endeavors.
right?
I cover all the possible skin areas with constant
with
friction.
lots of friction for a long period of time. That is what
Well,
makes your hands clean. Nothing. The other things
Maybe not
matter.
that long of a period of time. You can only
Right.
go so long.
But the other things matter hardly.
Trying to make a
not at all
masturbation joke.
compared to that factor.
And you just didn't even acknowledge
So
it.
if you care about getting your hands clean after you touch something dirty, when you're touching dirty things, then make sure you apply lots of friction for a long time to rub
there.
the dirt off.
We did some science. Now we're going to talk about a whole bunch of business stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it as technological as possible. Even
All
though
right.
it's mostly business news.
So the rumor over the weekend was that either Facebook or Yahoo was going to ruin Tumblr. And it ends up that Yahoo won the contest. They're the ones who are going to ruin Tumblr.
Hooray, I guess.
I love how the media, like the mainstream media, is actually reporting, yes, Yahoo says they won't ruin it.
Let me tell you something. I've worked for 2 different companies that were acquired, and I remained working at both of them afterwards. In fact, I'm still working at one of them, right? And whenever you are acquired, the company that is buying you, right, is going to say nothing's going to change, carry on, don't worry, everything's going to be awesome. And they basically say anything to assuage any fear that you may have. And 100% of the time, they are 100% lying. They bought you because they want to do something different with you. And once they get their hands on you, they own you and they do whatever the fuck they want. And nothing they said, some promise means a shit. You can't hold them to that.
That's why at least the company I worked for before had a poison pill to where basically if the company was bought out, it was awesome for the employees because it put such onerous requirements on them to pay ridiculous severance packages to basically prevent anyone from buying
Right.
us out who wasn't going to do what we wanted anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just today, Dave Weiner, the RSS inventing guy, posted a story about how he was once acquired by Yahoo, right? And I think
I think at one point everyone's been acquired by Yahoo.
or was it might have been Google or something. Someone bought him, right? And, they basically, while he was being bought, they told him, yeah, you'll be head of web strategy, whatever, right? And he was like, sweet, okay. So he agreed to it. And then he talks about how he set up a meeting, right, to talk about, I think it was like Symantec maybe, or McAfee, and how, to present the web strategy. And only the president showed up and no one else showed up. And he was sort of like, where the fuck is he? When he started, the guy basically stopped him and was like, all right, it's enough of that. And he's like, but what the fuck? I was supposed to be the chief of web strategy, whatever. He's like, yeah, we just told you that, so you would agree to be acquired. What the fuck do you think this is? Right? This is how the business world works. When a company buys another company, they will fuck it up eventually, right? The only counter examples we have to this are Disney. What Disney likes to do when they buy people, right, is let them roll for a while, right? And then fuck them up. Right? It's like Disney buys Marvel. They just let the status quo continue into like all the contracts and pre-extending agreements that Marvel had sort of expire, and thus, sort of open up the freedom for Disney to do what they want with it without, fucking anyone over or breaking any deals or causing any legal troubles, right? So like if Disney buys you, yeah, shit will continue, as it has for about a year, and then you're fucked. So considering Tumblr makes no money, Yahoo makes no money, Yahoo buys Tumblr, they're going to fuck it up. So they might actually, it's possible they can make it better, right?
The thing is, here's what worries me. Tumblr is the refuge of artists, pornographers, and kids who want to have a way to share stuff that isn't mom book, because Facebook has mom on it now, and the kids can't talk about the things they actually want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Tumblr has this sort of combination of being a blog and a social network and being semi-anonymous and not tied to the Facebook that their mom and dad in school all know about.
It also sort of has, unlike Facebook and other things where like your tumbles are tied to people, right? Like Google Plus. You can just have one account and make a bunch of tumbles.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I have the Radio Free Equestria one just in there.
Yeah, and tumbles
and
the one thing that Tumblr has that no one else has is sort of like something.tumblr.com. Like I have pixelmeat.tumblr.com.
You realize that something.tumblr.com replaced that's the name of my cover band joke.
Exactly. It's like obscure videogames.tumblr.com. Or
I started GoProing every morning, and as soon as I get enough, I'm going to start a Tumblr that's something along the lines of jackasses riding the wrong way in one-way bike lanes.tumblr.com.
Right. It's just a collection of specific things. It's almost
our friend Conrad made something
like
really
super cut of something in the world.tumblr.com.
Where is it? Did someone make it? Someone made a Tumblr that was African American women wearing Google Glass, and there's no entries to prove a point because someone else made the Tumblr of white men wearing Google Glass.
That's Tumblr. Yep. So that whole thing could be ruined. But like for now, they're saying all the right things. They're saying like, "Nope, we're not going to take the porn off Tumblr. Nope, we're not going to ruin it."
Okay,
nope.
Don't actually try to search for that because I just found a lot of porn.
Right. But like I said, companies that are buying other companies say the right thing in the period before and after the acquisition so that A, the people who are being acquired will agree to it, and B, they don't create an immediate PR nightmare, right? If they start changing things, while everyone is paying attention to that.
Did the Mets just lose?
No, they just started. Right? So as soon as, they acquire someone, they're in the news. They don't want that news to be accompanied with bad PR news. They'll wait for another time period to put in the second news of we're changing everything.
Now, that is why this is interesting, because Yahoo, they all announced that this Tumblr acquisition is happening, and then immediately has the Flickr announcement that they're updating Flickr.
And then, unlike Google, they updated it immediately.
I know, we both immediately were like, all right, I went to my Flickr and just like, hey, everything's different now.
Yeah,
but not really.
When Google updated Google Plus, that, earlier in the week, that shit wasn't updated until the end of the day.
You know why that is? Yahoo only has 4 users to deal with?
Seriously, Google, you can just update your shit everywhere instantly at the same moment as your I.O. press conference thingy.
But that's telling, because remember, Yahoo's under new management, and it takes a long time for that change in management to trickle down and actually have an effect on the things the company does.
Yep.
The fact that Yahoo, with Flickr, I was pretty much afraid for the last 3 years that they were going to shut Flickr down.
Like they fucked up Delicious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Flickr in particular, nothing competes with it. There's no alternative to Flickr for someone like me.
Right. Now you might say, wait a minute, there's like a zillion photo sharing sites all over the internet, but that is not true.
I have 500 gigabytes of photos.
Well, Flickr's giving you a terabyte free. Oh, wait. That Flickr, that's the only good one.
Yeah.
And for a small fee, they'll give you unlimited space. Guess what? Freaking Picasa, they charge you for the space, per gigabyte or whatever.
Yeah, they give you free uploads if you upload low resolution shit photos.
Yeah, if you do the math, if you uploaded all your raw photos to freaking Picasa, cost you a fucking fortune.
Well, here's an example of why this is. Geeknights is actually hosted on Libsyn, but Libsyn is just a reseller of AWS.
S3.
S3, which is part of AWS.
Yes.
So yeah, anyway, it's basically what they do.
I think Libsyn has some of their own servers too.
Yeah, but they do a lot of stuff where they'll archive things to another server, there is some Amazon going on in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to pay ourselves to use Amazon to host Geeknights, for the amount of data we have up and the number of downloads, because not every individual episode is not the end of the world, but the fact that some episode from 2006 gets downloaded like 4 times, there's a lot of old episodes, it would cost us like $1,000 a month.
Say it would cost a fucking ton of money.
And that's not even if we're doing like raws or higher quality or anything. So we're basically paying a lot less for the service, partly because we're a heavy user. A lot of other people pay for it, don't use it nearly as much as we do. I mean, how many podcasts have listeners? I mean, even we're in the single digits.
Yep.
So it's the same thing with Flickr. Most people who pay for Flickr don't have that much on Flickr, but then there's people like us who have a nice fancy camera and take a lot of pictures and want to store the raw, gigantic images for infinite posterity online somewhere and share those gigantic raw images with people willy-nilly.
Anyway, the new Flickr is pretty great. Because
it's all superficial changes right now, but they look great, actually.
Yeah, it used to be that like you browse Flickr and you get like one photo at a time, and most of the screen was white space. And you know, white space is important in web design, but I think when you've got just a ton of photos, the new Flickr just fills the screen with the photos.
Well, the old Flickr
which looks great, and it's really efficient.
The old Flickr looked great for its time.
Exactly.
I mean, back then, all white space everywhere was the way things looked.
The old Flickr basically had the YouTube layout, right? Where you have, the main focus is this one photo, comments under it, stuff hanging out on the right side and navigation across the top, right? And that was sort of, in a way, invented that. I think Flickr was older than YouTube, right?
Yeah, Flickr
sort of invented that standard layout there.
Well, you're talking older than YouTube. I was using Flickr at RIT.
Right.
YouTube didn't even start going, wasn't available until what? It was 8 years. It was like 2005?
Something like that.
I will look up the dates.
I think YouTube was 07 maybe. 05, no, 05, I don't know. 04? I don't know.
I'll look it up. But I am both optimistic and pessimistic about Foundation Day, February 14th, 2005.
So find Flickr's date.
So think about that. YouTube today is the be-all and all source of the majority of the entertainment of the internet generation. It did not exist when Scott and I were in high school. It did not exist until we were about to graduate from university. There wasn't video on the internet the entire time we were at RIT.
There was barely video on the
BitTorrent
internet.
was not commonly used. We would use like Hotline,
Yeah.
Napster,
WinMX.
OpenNap.
Direct Connect.
Oh my God.
It was the peer-to-peer glory days. Anyway,
but I have a positive point and a negative point, or I guess an optimistic and a pessimistic thing. Optimistically, the fact that Yahoo bought Tumblr is not that troubling in light of the fact that they actually are doubling down on Flickr, which is what they said they were going to do way back when this change in management happened. I believe the quote was something like, Instagram should have never even had the chance to exist. That should have just been basic functionality, one right click among many, one app among many tied to Flickr.
Yep.
We missed the boat and we're coming back. That I'm paraphrasing liberally. But they didn't do anything, so that was just all empty promises. But now they did the changes to Flickr as a signal right after the Tumblr thing, so maybe they are going to do this.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to show you,
off.
like, look, we bought Tumblr, and here's what we did to Flickr. Expect that for Tumblr.
So here's why I'm pessimistic. How the fuck does Tumblr make money?
I don't know.
There's no ads. The CEO hates ads.
I thought there was like one ad on the side.
Where? I've never seen an ad.
Okay.
And there's a very sort of
maybe
indie,
people put Project Wonderfuls like on their tumbles.
There's a very sort of indie anti-advertising sentiment in the Flickr community as well.
Tumblr. Flickr, yeah.
Tumblr.
Well, both. And neither site has ads.
Yeah. Well, it says that one perk of me paying for Flickr is no ads.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never seen ads on Flickr.
Well, I've been running ad block since like 1994. So
That's true.
Back when ad block consisted of a hosts file for the 5 known IPs that ads came
That's
from.
right. Flickr's the right price, so we're good.
Yeah. Flickr was founded in almost exactly a year before YouTube.
Okay.
So both very old and not that old at all. But Yahoo, struggling on revenue, struggling to be relevant in the modern era, can't compete with Google in terms of advertising.
No.
How is Yahoo going to be a successful company? Flickr costs way too little, in my opinion, for them to make huge amounts of money off of it. I don't know if I'd keep using it if they charged more.
Well, as long as they're cheaper than everyone else,
Exactly.
I'd kind of be forced to use it.
But if it costs the same...
If it costs the same, I'll just switch to Picasa.
Exactly. If it costs the same as Picasa, I would use Picasa. I like Picasa a lot better.
Well, I don't actually like Picasa better, but it's a Google thing, so I can trust it more.
Yeah. But Tumblr, they're going to get all these users. How are they going to integrate with and monetize with Tumblr? I can't imagine. No one using Tumblr wants to use a Yahoo ID to manage it. The whole point of Tumblr is that it's pretty pseudo-anonymous.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a lot of companies these days buy companies without strategies, right? And it's like, I wonder, what is your strategy here? You know, I see this happen a lot is companies buy companies because some business people look at the books and they say, aha, this will be a winning move.
I mean,
look at these numbers, but they don't actually have a strategy of what to do with the company after they bought it.
Tumblr has a huge market in the demographic that people are so desperate to chase and can't. I mean, it's
so
young
on paper,
kids,
it looks
artists,
great, but what are you actually going to fucking do?
And that's what I can't figure out, because if they integrate it too much with Yahoo's existing stuff, no one's going to want anything to do with it.
Maybe they're going to put all Yahoo stuff into Tumblr, right? Go the other way.
But then how does that make Yahoo money?
I don't fucking know.
And maybe Yahoo could go the route of they have high quality services like advanced Tumblr and Flickr, and you get a free version that everyone uses. So you get this kind of really big user base, but then you charge your expert users to sort of fund that the next step, and the professional producers who put their professional stuff in.
That's actually not a bad strategy. I mean, it's like, you got this Facebooks and the Googles sort of competing for like this mass, right? Whatever. Flickr could be like, Yahoo could be like, we are the company that owns the web apps that are the highbrow web apps, right? Like the Flickrs and now the Tumbles, and just, start collecting them and be like, we manage the highbrow web apps. And it's like, that's actually... if they keep up with that, like the way they've been going with Flickr, and they go that strategy, I'd probably end up using a lot of their shit.
Yeah. Granted, they're the ones who betrayed all those Chinese dissidents to the Chinese government.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at least Google tries to stand up for that stuff.
And Yahoo, I think, still makes a lot of money from like Japan, right? They have like Yahoo auctions there is huge.
Yeah,
right?
And Yahoo
like
Games is super popular among the 40 to 70-year-old Hearts player demographic.
That Hearts and backgammon and shit that's been on YouTube.
The best.
That stuff, it's not only is it still the best, it's the exact same one that was on there when I was in high school. They haven't updated it for shit. It's like this Java applet.
I used to play Hearts on that shit like every day when I was a kid.
In high school. So the late 90s, that's how old that shit is. Yahoo Games is ancient. They haven't changed it. Those apps are still running today. And it's, I guess they have ads on it, so they make money on it.
It's interesting because, when I realized the reason I don't know a lot about Tumblr, I was trying to think about the monetization stuff we're talking about, is that Tumblr doesn't have documentation and kind of just throws you into the middle. You just kind of figure it out.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But so here.
Tumblr doesn't have a lot of meta, right? Like other things do.
So apparently, according to an interview, David Karp said that Tumblr was monetized by advertising.
Okay.
I've never seen an ad. I don't know how the ads
Maybe you're
exist
blocking
in Tumblr.
them just like you are in Flickr.
Maybe. But if I, a technologist, literally didn't know a company advertises because my default ad blocking is so good that I've never seen one, how do they think that that's not going to be every user's experience in the long run?
In the long run. But you know what? That's the super long run.
Why doesn't everyone run ad block?
There's a few people who have but most people, I don't fucking know. I still don't get that. It's not like ad block's hidden now. It's real easy to turn on. There's a few handful of people that have like a stand, like they want ads.
But you know what?
That's not most people.
Yeah.
It's just most people, I guess, are indifferent. I don't know.
But apparently also, let's see, the average ad purchase on Tumblr is just under 6 figures. So they're not selling expensive ads.
No.
Under 6 figures. So just under 6 figures. What kind of metric is that? So $90,000 is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Is the average. Functionality lead Tumblr. Oh, okay. During the first half of 2013, Tumblr will allow companies to pay to promote their own posts to larger audiences. They're going to monetize the same way Twitter's trying to monetize.
Right, but
there's
if you
occasional annoying, intrusive, promoted tweets that everyone ignores.
But it's in Tumblr, there's a setting where you can say, don't put anything in my dashboard that I do not follow, and it works. So are they going to change that?
I guess they're going to have to change that.
That setting goes away. You can't get rid of the
they say that this functionality will lead Tumblr to profitability in 2013. So I guess they're not profitable
Maybe
yet.
enough people don't turn the setting off.
Tumblr also generates revenue by selling themes to users to change the appearance of their blog. That's not a bad idea.
That's not the worst. Most people can't fucking design for shit, and I hope that
If Valve can make money by getting people to make hats for other people to then buy in-game, then I have no problem with designers selling.
They should, in fact, make a Tumblr theme store where users can make Tumblr themes, put them in that store, and sell them to each other, and Tumblr would take a cut, just like Steam, Valve taking a cut on your hat.
What amazes me is that Tumblr has received $125 million in funding so far.
Yep. You could have funded 125 $1 million companies.
I could have funded,
and probably would have been better off.
That could fund 12 not AAA blockbuster, but 12 A-level video games.
Yeah, one of them's gonna be a hit, guys.
Yeah.
And it's gonna make back a lot more than.
Yeah, and those video games, you just sell them and people give you money direct.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm really ambivalent. I can't tell if this is going to be good or bad. Either Yahoo's really turning everything around, or Yahoo is really setting itself up to explode, compete with Google, and then collapse.
All right, so here's another story. Let's break away from that.
All right.
So, Valve recently, a few months ago, I guess, had this great purge where they fired a whole bunch of people, and everyone was like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
Two of those people, former Valve hardware engineer Jerry Ellsworth and programmer Rick Johnson, right, were working on something that was basically some kind of goggles, right? And it's like Oculus Rift, Google Glass goggles are pretty hot right now, right? And they were working on goggles for Valve. And they got fired, and they decided to keep working on the goggles, even though they were not at Valve anymore. And apparently, they went and they talked to the lawyers at Valve, and the Valve lawyers, it was pretty much like, Gabe was like, let him have it. And the lawyer's like, okay, it's yours. It's yours now.
See, little things like that is why Valve has some of the only DRM I almost trust to be turned off if they went out of business.
Right. So the prototypes of these goggles look so shitty. Yeah. But what they supposedly do is apparently amazing and totally different from what Oculus Rift or what Google Glass does. So what Google Glass does is in the corner of your eye, there's a tiny screen that you can look at and do stuff with, right? Oculus Rift is you wear TV on your face, right? What this is that you see something in 3D out in the world in front of you.
Meaning that's the true augmented reality visual overlay.
Right. These are the
That's what glass has to
Denocoil.
become in the long run.
Yes, these are the Denocoil glasses that they're working on. And, I think that, in the short run, I don't think they'll have a product the way that Oculus Rift and Google Glass will have a product in the short term.
Yep.
But I think on the second or third go around, when this shit is ready, if one of those two people doesn't buy them, right, they're pretty much going to kick everyone's ass because no one else, I think, is no one else is as far along in this direction as they are that I know
don't know, though, because I saw a thing about one of Google's patents was basically for their iteration of that, and people were saying that was a prototype for Glass 2.
Quite possibly, but I think these people might be, from what things that the public has seen, they are the farthest along in that direction.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's what I'm really waiting for.
Oh, yeah. It's like, but I think they're mostly thinking of it in like a gaming direction. I mean, they're obviously not strictly a gaming direction, right? But they came from Valve, right? So, walk down the street, you're playing Pac-Man, you see the dots just hovering in the middle of the street while you're walking down, right? You see the ghost coming at you, you turn and run away. That kind of shit is what this is going to do. So if I could only buy one of the three today, I would definitely get this one.
All right, I think we're about done because we got to get ready for Anime Boston.
Yeah, I got to eat dinner too and finish the panel.
I'm mad hungry. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
It's Monday, April 20th.